everyone. I am being called more and more to share about what I've been learning in terms of moving into unity consciousness with our business and in our lives. And so I'm going to be sharing much more about this concept that I've been developing for a while now, and it's kind of solidified. And I think it's time for me to start sharing, especially with so much uncertainty that is going on in the world right now, and especially if you live in the US. So we have the election, and then we have all the natural disasters that happen, and we really need a way when things feel so chaotic and when they feel kind of apocalyptic in a way, that there's a way that we have a method, we have something that we can turn to really ground us. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be kind of sharing with you these ideas that I've been working with. And again, these are, even though I've been working with them for a while now, they're kind of, as they've solidified, I'm barely just starting to share about them. So may be a little clunky, and there's, as I share, I'm sure that I will develop these a lot further. And so I just want to just make sure that everything is okay here on this stream. Um, and so, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing these ideas with you. And so, I'm going to try and keep it short for today and then come on and share more. Um, and especially, I want to start with this because it grounds and it kind of gives a purpose to what I'm going to be doing. And it does so in my own brain, and then I hope it makes sense to you. And since everyone in this group also has a business, then I want you to start thinking about how you are applying this. And so if you're in this group, more than likely it's because you've been already feeling that call, you're feeling that nudge, not just because of what you offer. So some of you already offer spiritual services to your clients, but some of you may just be interested in how do I integrate spirituality in business. And so it doesn't, sometimes it feels like it's incongruous, like we can't do both. And so we have to choose one or the other. And the only way that we can do it maybe is if we choose to focus our business on spirituality. But what I'm going to be sharing with you is going to kind of give you a framework. It's going to give you kind of these concepts that you can start working with. And so, because this is what I am doing myself, and that this is what I am focused on. So not just thinking about the how I serve my clients and how I serve the world, but I want to make sure that what I'm creating is kind of fitting in and cohering with these bigger kind of cosmic energies that are happening, and that it's good for us to be aware of them. So some of you may already have heard of these concepts. Others of you, this may be completely new, but it's something that learning about them really transformed how I understand my journey. And whenever I'm starting to feel ungrounded, I definitely come back to these ideas, and it grounds me in what do I do? How do I make choices that are connected and aligned with this bigger vision? So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you. And so I'm going to start. So I'm going to share the presentation with you, and then I'll come on and off camera depending on if I want to just talk to you. So, for example, and um, so I'm going to talk about divinizing your business. Like, what does it mean to divinize our business? And so, and I'm getting an error message, but hopefully everything's okay. Otherwise, I'll just do this again. So when we are, So when we're thinking about how do we integrate spirituality into our business, and so a lot of times we think of it in terms of how, or when we think about spirituality, we think of how do we ascend. And so there's a lot of this language about ascension and how we move into the higher planes. But I kind of want to start thinking about it also in how do we bring those higher planes so that we're aligned with them. So it's not just us uh, elevating ourselves or aligning to these higher planes, reaching a higher vibration. There's a lot of different ways that this has been discussed. But how can we think of it as really this divine energy is also seeking to become much more embodied? And so we want to think about, well, how can we do that? So these concepts that I'm talking about uh, call come from this book, The Nine Waves of Creation, and I've been following this author and really working with these ideas. And this, I was really called to this because it's based on Mayan cosmology, and that's what Carl Kalaman has been working with Mayan cosmology, and then of course has looked at how Mayan cosmology aligns with a lot of other cosmologies. But this language of the nine waves of creation is really coming from this Mayan cosmology. And so part of what I've been doing myself is I've been thinking about how do I learn from these ways of knowing these knowledge, very old, ancient knowledge systems that I've been disconnected from personally because I have Mexican heritage. So I know that part of my goal is to reconnect to them. And so that's where part of my interest came in. But what Kellerman does is that he outlines how each wave of creation, and he details how there's nine of them, how they have distinct influences on human consciousness and societal structures. And so each one of the wave really helps us to understand how humanity came into being and then how we are developing in terms of consciousness. And so these are waves that are moving humanity forward and are aiding in humanity's evolution. So that's part of what all of these theories involve. And so he talks about these nine waves, and so you can see them here. And so I'm going to focus our discussion up here in the sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth wave. And so when we're talking about divinizing our business, we're talking about how can we move beyond sixth and seventh wave consciousness, and I'll explain what that is, more into eighth and ninth wave consciousness. And so ninth wave consciousness is really unity consciousness, and then that's what we're wanting to connect with. And so that is so of course the book talks about all of the different waves, and I'm not necessarily going to go through all of them, but and just focus on the ones that were most can have the most impact, that our choices can have the most impact as we understand the ways. So Kellerman argues that these waves emanate from the center of the universe. So they're it's this kind of the if we think of the Big Bang, and so all of these waves started with that huge kind of primal energy flow of the Big Bang, and but the main thing is that each one of these waves, as it started its emanation, shapes all of creation. So it shapes our minds, it shapes our worldviews, and it does so because it has this holographic resonance. So, of course, we know that as above, so below, and we're humans. We're a reflection, kind of in a microcosm of the whole universe. So we can see how this energy is reflected in our own human consciousness, and of course how we develop our our societies. so here, and this may be too small for you, but there's the all of the waves, and so he details how the waves, he kind of puts them in a timeline. And so the ones that we're interested in are the sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth wave. So the sixth wave, and I think I have this a little bit bigger. So the sixth wave is when agriculture and writing began. Then the seventh was the Industrial Revolution. And then the eighth wave, we have the digital revolution. And then, of course, we're moving into this, the wave, or we're resonating more with the wave of unity consciousness. So the wave of unity consciousness is already present. And so it's just a matter of, can we resonate to that wave? And so part of what I'm going to be talking about is, well, how do we do that? So we know that we want this, we know that we want to align to unity consciousness. We know that it'll be beneficial for the planet and for humanity to work to become unified and to work together. And so part of what I'm going to talk about is, well, what exactly does it mean to align to unity consciousness? So what is the ninth wave all about? And then how can we do it? So what are some actual grounded steps that we can take both in our lives and in the creation of our business, and how we work with our clients, the different offers that we create, how we build and how we scale. So all of that can help us to knowing what the ninth wave all entails can help to give us some guidance and some methods, a framework that we can use as we're trying to not just connect with unity consciousness in our personal lives, but how can we do that in everything, including in how we develop our business. And so let's talk a little bit more about the sixth wave, because this is part of what we're moving away from. So we can think of that the sixth wave brought in this dualistic thinking and the idea of good and evil. And so we know that the dualistic thinking has basically been very negative. And even though it was part of our evolution, it created this hierarchy and created patriarchal structures. So it created systems of inequality and created systems of power over. And so we're seeing the results of all of that, not just in how humans treat each other. And so there's violence and there's a lot of inequality. We have wealth that is being hoarded by a certain number of people. We have how we've had this hierarchical structure even in how we deal with the planet. So we can see how this particular energy has been part of how humanity has developed, but it hasn't brought in, or it has created a lot of negative effects. And so now we're dealing with all of that. And part of what is allowing for change is these other waves. So the seventh wave is the wave of the Industrial Revolution. So here is where we have all these technological advancements. We have the scientific rationalism. So we're starting to try to foster this idea of global connectivity. And so, but of course, we're still very much in effect from the sixth wave. And so even though the Industrial Revolution brought in a lot of these advancements, it kind of made inequality much more visible, and it made it much more stark. And so that's just important to consider. And you can see the dates there, kind of when Carl Kalaman kind of he theorizes when these waves came in, and he uses our historical knowledge to kind of track the wave coming in. Well, he uses the Mayan cosmology to put a date, but then he aligns it with the historical record and showing, well, how to to kind of give it validity. So this sixth wave came in, and how we started to see that sixth wave manifest in humanity. And then the seventh wave came in, and then this is how we started to see it manifest in humanity. And then we had the eighth wave. So the eighth wave came in around 1999, and so this is where we have the digital revolution. We have much more connectivity and interconnectivity, but again, we're still being affected by the inequality and the dualistic thinking. So just keep in mind that when there's a lot of ideas in terms of spirituality where we're ascending, and there's this understanding that if we ascend, we're no longer affected by the lower energies. And this is not how we understand the waves. So the waves, we're saying, or Kalaman argues that the waves are always present. So just because there's the eighth wave came in doesn't mean that the sixth wave isn't there. But because it's new energies coming in now we have these new energies dynamically affecting the others. So now it's not just the sixth wave, but then the seventh wave came in, and then the eighth wave came in. So all of the waves are working in conjunction. Okay. And then the ninth wave is the most recent wave. And so this is the wave of unity consciousness. And so here is the energetic frequency that is moving us towards kind of this integrative perspective, this understanding and wanting to move us through an egalitarian society. We have a lot more people aware of them undergoing spiritual awakening. And so we're thinking about, well, how can we, what does that look like? So it's not just about us as humans kind of ascending to this spiritual realm and achieving this Buddhahood and escaping society, but it's about how do we bring these concepts of unity consciousness, of promoting harmony, promoting balance, of bringing this cosmic order into our human experience. And so it's not about escaping our human experience, it's about how do we bring these energies into our human experience. And so I really want to focus, well, how do we do that? And that's one of the things that I've been kind of thinking through as I've been working with his ideas, is first really understanding and trying to feel when I myself am resonating more to one wave versus others, seeing it how the effects or the things that are happening in the world and what those events kind of are a reflection of which wave are they reflecting. And so this concept and this framework has been really instrumental for me to really survive, the chaotic presidencies, the pandemic. So all of these were very essential for me to maintain my sanity when everything around me seemed to be very chaotic. So I hope that you will explore these as well for yourself. And so one of the things that we want to consider is, well, how do we align to unity consciousness? Like, what do we do? Like, what are grounded everyday actions that we can take in our lives? And then what are grounded everyday things that we can do for our business? And so we want to be thinking about both. And so I'm going to talk about them briefly here, and then I want to delve much more into each one of these concepts and really find people who are focused on these, because as I kind of observe what's happening in kind of online business, I see that there's a lot of people who are already doing some of these strategies and who are already implementing some of these things into their own business. And they may not necessarily know about the 9 waves framework, but I want to bring the discussion to tie everything together. So one of the main ways that we can start, and which is what we're doing today, is learning about the waves. So really educating yourself about the 9 waves of creation, what their implications are, what the broader cosmic context, so that then we can start aligning our personal actions. So a lot of times it's really helpful and has been really helpful for me to have a framework that I can turn to. Because a lot of times when we think about spirituality, um, it's so intangible. Like we can't really ground it. We think about it in terms of energy, and we think about it in terms of things that are not tangible, versus thinking about actual action. How can we take a decision, or how can we make a decision that is going to cohere with these broader cosmic energies, especially in the direction that we want to go in. And that's very specific. So for example, if we go back to the sixth and seventh wave, like, is the choice that we're making, is it aligning with the sixth wave? Is it aligning with the seventh wave? Is it aligning with the eighth wave, with the ninth wave? And so, as much as possible, the more that we ask ourselves that question, like, this choice that I'm making or this way that I'm behaving today, what wave is it aligning to? And so we want to be intentional, and then we want to individually, we want to be moving more and more in alignment to the ninth wave. And then the more that we do that, then the more that our life is just going to start resonating to that unity consciousness. And the more that more of us do that, then the more impact we will have beyond ourselves and beyond our business. So, it starts with one, and then it's going to affect your family. It affects how you develop your business, which means it affects your clients, and then it just ripples out. So, but of course, we need to start with learning what these are, and then starting to think about how does this framework, what implications does this understanding have in my life, and how can I start using it to inform what I do? And then, of course, part of this is education and awareness, is thinking about how it applies to us in our lives, but thinking then how we can see these energies reflected in kind of global issues and what is happening around the world. And so part of what we want to do is think about the interconnection and develop a compassionate worldview as much as possible. And so, for example, one of the things that having this understanding really helped me is to, when there is a lot of conflict, for example, and when there's people that are very divided, um, and when I'm going into conflict, or I'm going into battling with them, or I'm going into like these heavy discussions, or I start feeling very angry because of decisions that were made or effects that were had, um, I I recognize that I am moving into the sixth and seventh wave energy. So I'm moving into that dualistic thinking. I'm moving into and so I'm resonating more with those energies. And so then I consciously started to pull myself out of those energies. And then, so versus fighting with someone and who I wasn't going to change their mind, is like, how can I start resonating to these higher frequencies, to the eighth or ninth wave? So, and then of course that helped me tremendously to stay sane during all of these really tumultuous years that we've had in like the past 10 years. So then one of the next strategies that you can use is to really double down on your mindfulness and meditation. So developing a meditation practice, because it quiets the mind and it helps you to connect with these higher frequencies. And one of the things that it does is it helps you to notice when your frequency is aligning to one of the other waves. Because if your frequency aligns with one of the other waves, then you're just perpetuating that energy. So when you meditate and when you practice these mindfulness practices, then you're able to notice when that is happening, and you're able to disconnect yourself from them, and then make a different choice consciously. And the more that you do that, then the easier that it becomes. And then, of course, it allows you to be fully present and aware of each moment so that then you can consciously connect to the energies of the ninth wave as much as possible and keep coming back to it. The more you come back to it, the more it becomes normal. It just becomes easier to do. The next strategy are your spiritual practices and your intentions. So, what intentions can you set for unity and for being in harmony with others, being in harmony with the world? How can you promote equality? How can you promote peace? How can you promote interconnectedness? So, how can you do that in your own personal life, like with your family, with your extended family? And especially as we come into the holidays, like how can we do this? And then, of course, how do we do this with our business? How do we do this in the broader world? So, we'll be having much more discussions with that. And so, one way that we can do it is, of course, engaging in ritual. And so, bringing rituals into the work that we do. So, not just in our personal lives, but bringing ritual into business and how we do business, how we plan our business, how we create our offers, how we work with our clients. And so, an easy way that you can see this already happening quite a bit is like using moon rituals or using gratitude practices. But there's other ways. And so, I wanted us to talk about, well, what does that look like and we how can we do it? So, what are our tangible actions and examples of what we can do? So, then the next strategy is healing and clearing. Now, I'm going over all of these strategies because I am introducing them to you, not because I think we should all be doing them all at once. If this is a new concept for you, then start with the first one. And I've kind of put them in order of how you should start working on them. So if this is new, then we're just going to start with education and awareness. Like we need to start there. And then we move on to the other ones. As we go through, if you've already kind of been doing this for a while, you can kind of do a little checklist. Like, so what are some of the things that you're already integrating in your own personal experience and maybe in your business? And then how can we be more intentional about integrating these strategies? But again, you want to start where you are. Don't think that, oh, I have to do all of them all at once, because that's really not tenable, right? Especially now as we move into the holidays and we have the election season and we have all this trauma that people are experiencing, like with different climate related events, that we are also gentle with ourselves. And so we want to work towards this. And it's not something that you do from one day to another or 1 week to another, even 1 month to another. I mean, we do this slowly and it just becomes a way of life eventually. The next strategy, of course, is healing and clearing. So releasing negative patterns, learning about how to heal the past patterns, how to clear negative thought patterns that, again, resonate to the lower waves. And so, learning how to do energy healing on yourself, learning about journaling, learning about different therapies like breath work, somatic work. So, there's a lot of different healing practices and clearing practices that you can use to help you to clear those energies. And even having that awareness and developing that mindfulness so that you can stop yourself when you're starting to resonate with those lower waves, that allows you to be able to already start doing that healing and clearing. And then, of course, if you don't engage in healing practices like as an offering to your clients, then of course you can seek people to work with to help you to do that yourself so that you can learn how to do it. And of course, you can work with practitioners to help you. So there's a lot of different ways that this can be done. So we'll continue our discussion much more about this, because one of the things that I focus on is this is one of the areas that I focus on in my business and my offerings. So I'll be talking about much more of that in the future. And then we have, of course, embracing forgiveness and compassion. We want to start with ourselves. So be compassionate with ourselves. not be in judgment and ourselves and our negative patterns. Or when we align to the sixth wave, we need to not be in judgment in ourselves of ourselves. We need to just move towards aligning with one of the other waves. And just know that the more that we do this, the easier it's going to become. So that's really important. So it's not really about beating ourselves up or beating anyone else up because they're aligning to the other waves. It's just understanding that that's happening, and then just seeing it as a circumstance that's happening and something that we can choose to move away from. And then talking about, well, how can we do that? What are the different choices that we have? So we'll be talking much more about that as well. And so another strategy is to really think about the lifestyle choices that we make and be really conscious and intentional about the lifestyle choices. So one of the things that we want to consider is sustainable living. So of course, sustainable living refers to how we choose to live here on the planet. So what are the different things that we do in dealing with the earth and dealing with our planet, and of course in dealing with other people, with dealing with social equity, for example. How do we engage that? And so trying as much as possible to be mindful about our consumption, trying to reduce waste, supporting ethical practices wherever possible. And again, I'm not saying that we need to do this 100% of the time right away from one day to the next. Again, all of these are a process, but the more that more of us start doing them, the more that we start to shift humanity as a whole. Another thing that is really important is to think about community involvement. So how do we engage with community? How do we foster a sense of collective well-being and mutual support? So it's not just about going and extracting from communities, but how do we go and receive support, and then how do we also give support so that it's mutual. It's a mutual benefit of both giving and receiving. And then, of course, as much as possible, amplifying those communities that amplify the resonance with the ninth wave as much as possible. And so, having our community involvement be very intentional. Then we have the strategy of creativity and expression. So, as much as possible, we want to show up authentically. So, how can we allow for self expression, whether it be in art or music or writing or whatever forms of creativity you like to engage in? So, it could be knitting or it can be dancing, whatever it is, even if it's I saw somebody was creating artwork out of leaves, fallen leaves from a tree. And so whatever it is that we do, like how can we be authentically uh, focused on our authentic self-expression? So that is important. And so choosing something, the more that if we follow somebody else's path, that isn't necessarily engaging our own self-expression. So really thinking about, what is authentic to you, and then how can you express it creatively, and really trying to do that in a conscious way. You can also participate in collaborative projects, and so you can either initiate them or you can just become part of them. And so, as much as possible, this is about emphasizing collaboration and collective creativity. And then again, we want to think about, well, how do these projects that we're involved with, how do they reflect, and um, how do they kind of enact these principles of unity and co-creation, so that we're not doing things on our own? And so if you've been and we see that a lot more in online, kind of the online space, is that people want to be in community. And even if it's online, like people are searching for community. People are We have this epidemic of loneliness at the moment that is kind of counter to this sense of, well, what is going to solve that epidemic of loneliness? And it's this engagement with community. And so starting to do that in a way that feels authentic to ourselves. Um, and so these are the principles of the 9 waves of creation. And these are the different strategies that you can use to help you to align to the ninth wave. So that if you say, well, okay, the ninth wave, unity consciousness, that seems really nice, but look at all this stuff that's happening out in the world. Well, can you focus on one of these strategies and then one particular action that is going to help to expand that energy of the ninth wave? So the more that we do it, the more that we do it in our actions, the more that we do it in our personal lives and with our families and in the ways that we create and build our business, the more that we do it in how we engage with other people, and those ripples, the more people that do them become really powerful waves. And so I want to introduce this concept to you, and I'm going to be talking about each one of these strategies, really grounding them to how can we do this. So for example, I know that a lot of you in this group are here because of one of my offerings, either the hypnosis offering, or you're here because of um, the meeting the spirit of your business offering. And so for when I was doing those, I'm really talking about um, how can we bring these spiritual practices in a very concrete way into our business. And so the hypnosis one was really more about healing and clearing negative patterns around visibility and business building. And the meet the spirit of your business is, how do we bring this spiritual technology into our business to really inform our business, to help our business, to for us to feel more connected with our business, to use kind of not just our own human energies to build our business, but to really use these cosmic energies to help to grow our business. And so that's just a couple of examples based on the offerings that you may be here because of either the hypnosis offering or the meet the spirit of your business offering. But almost everything that I do, I kind of take my offerings through this particular matrix, and I say, how is what I'm doing, how is it fitting, how is it supporting, how is it aligning, how is it cohering with this ninth wave of creation. So when so this is what I'm calling the divinizing of our business. So I'm also calling it becoming a ninth wave CEO, because when we become a ninth wave CEO, that means that we're using all of these concepts, all of these principles of the ninth wave to help to grow our business. And so, again, I know this may be a lot for you because, again, it's a lot of different ideas, it's a lot of different concepts, but I'm going to be sharing about each one. I want us to have conversations. How do we do it? How do we engage it? And I'll also have a download of all the principles so that you can put them by your desk. You can put them by you can put them by where it is that you work, by your computer, so that you can be conscious of them. And in fact, I want us to do kind of a little ritual with those principles, so that we can engage with them in a way that feels co-creative, in a way that feels supportive. And so not just for ourselves and our business, but for humanity ultimately, which is my goal. So I'm wanting to um, start kind of in a very personal way, and then being confident that that energy is going to have an effect beyond our little group here. So thank you so much for joining me. If you know of anyone who would be interested in in learning more about divinizing your business, learning more about the ninth wave of creation and how we use these waves in our business, how we use these principles to grow our business in a way that's much more aligned, that's much more coherent. I'd love for you to send them the link to the group so that then they can join. And so you want to make sure to send them the link to the group so then they can answer the community questions, and then they can join and become part of this group. So I encourage you to ask questions, any ideas that you have, anything that you'd like to share. How are you already divinizing your business? Which of these principles do you already use? And I look forward to engaging with these ideas and engaging with you, this conversation with you a lot more, and really learning about how each one of us is really adding little pieces to this particular conversation. So, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you soon.